welcome to No Holding Back with me, Susan Estridge. Each week I'll have the privilege of talking with some of the biggest names from the worlds of media, politics, and law. Nothing is off the table. I'll be speaking my mind and encouraging my guests to do so too. Today I'm joined by one of the world's best pollsters. Celinda Lake has been at this for a long time, as long as I have. And she's been polling in countless campaigns for advocacy groups, for nonprofits, for candidates. No one knows women's issues, what we used to call women's issues, better than Celinda Lake. Nobody's been around the block the way she has. She's been polling abortion for as long as I've been writing briefs about abortion, and really knows this area of politics better than anything. I'm so delighted, Celinda, to have you and to have your expertise and input. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Is this the presidential election that is going to finally turn on the abortion issue? We've been polling it for years. Is this the one where it's going to finally make the big difference?
I think it's going to play a major role. And this is the first one we've had where the pro-abortion forces are more energized than the anti-abortion forces. So that makes a huge difference. And of course, we have initiatives on many key states, and that will mobilize voters and frame up the issue. So I think it's going to make a major role. It won't be the only thing that's making a difference, but it's going to be a major role. And you know that the Republicans are frightened of it because they've been trying all kinds of strategies to back off their position, and they've been quite unsuccessful because the state legislatures have been so relentless, and the MAGA Republicans are so relentless.
So what's happening? I've seen, the platform where we used to, I remember going back to the 80s when we fought to get abortion into the Democratic platform, and you and I were in that battle together. And now the Republicans are fighting to get abortion out of their platform.
I know. It's crazy.
What's going on? Tell us what your insight is into that.
Yes, well, I think that people really didn't expect Roe v. Wade to be overturned, and they were just flabbergasted that rights would take away. They have a general theory that rights are always expanded. We hear this threat, but it's never really going to happen. And then it happened, and it happened full force. It wasn't even a modified position. And then the state legislatures doubled down, invoked laws from the 1800s. The Missouri state legislature immediately went into session to restrict contraception. So cases were put in the pipeline to prosecute doctors and to do with medication abortion. And just in general, this has really energized younger women who think these old white male politicians should not be interfering in their bodily autonomy and their personal decisions. And voters in general, very energized because of the broad array of issues that are affected African-American women, saying this is a question of life and death for African-American women. Latinas saying, I totally believe they'll go after contraception next. That's what they did in Latin America and Central America. And baby boomer women like ourselves, we remember when abortion was illegal. I helped a friend get an illegal abortion in Montana. And so, and many of our mothers, my own, in fact, said that she had an illegal abortion. So we have that history, and it's made a very intense decision. And the Republicans have just doubled down. Now, Trump is trying to exit. He's trying to say the states are the ones making the decisions. But
is that working, Celinda? Is he neutralizing?
No, it's not working at all. 2/3 of voters want a national guarantee, not a state. Even in states that are absolutely convinced they will always be safe, like New York and California, think they're being massively affected, think that people will try for national bans if the MAGA Republicans get in charge of both houses of Congress. And of course, 2 days after Trump said leave it to the states, Arizona proved that the states are absolutely insane and tried to reinstate an 1864 law, not a 1964 law. So it's not working at all. They said for a moment that they were the party of children, and we said, okay, game on. Where are your votes for free lunches, increasing maternal and child health? We're there. You can count on our votes. Where are you? So that didn't work. And now they're just trying to, then they went with the 15-week ban, and that didn't work in Virginia because we developed the message along with a number of choice groups, and that, every pregnancy is unique. Anything can go wrong at any time in a pregnancy. These are decisions that should be made by women and people and their doctors, not politicians for their own political gain. And that really turned around the issue. So now they're on a new kick, which is to say that we support abortions at delivery. We support abortions after
Yeah, I mean,
delivery.
what is this about? I teach criminal law, homicide. We don't
Yeah,
support abortions
exactly.
after delivery. That's ridiculous.
And they put up ads. They put up ads with kindergartners in them, and it's like, what are you talking about? That's murder. It's already illegal. So they're trying, but they're not being very successful. And it'll be interesting. They're trying to pull it, as you mentioned, from the Republican platform. They're trying to disinvite groups that are known for leading the so-called right to life movement. But I don't think this is going to work. They're pretty solidly branded now.
And what about the right to life groups? Are they going to just go gently into the night? I mean, I can't believe that Trump got away with this platform maneuver of simply taking it out and making it sound like, oh, what, us, abortion? I mean, how does he get away
Yeah,
with it?
I was stunned. They're far more disciplined than we are. We have one debate night, and all we can do is tear our own candidate down. They do a major issue that is a fundamental violation of what he promised, of what he ran on, of what he accomplished, and of what they have been fighting for decades. And they're just silent. Talk about a disciplined party, but I don't think the voters will be fooled. And I think these initiatives really help keep the issue alive by saying, okay, I have to decide whether to vote yes or no on this initiative. So you, politician, need to tell me where you stand on this issue.
Where are the initiatives right now? Can you go through the states and just tell us what you think in terms of particularly the battleground states? Where are the
Yes.
initiatives and where
Well,
can they
so
make a difference?
Arizona has many states like Arkansas, et cetera, have initiatives that aren't in battleground states, but they'll make a big difference. And I really want to praise the Arkansans for their courage and persistence in getting it on. But Arizona has an initiative on the ballot. Arizona is a very pro-abortion state. It'll make a big difference in turnout. It'll help the Senate and the presidential. Nevada has an initiative, again, very, very pro-abortion state. Again, will make a difference for the Senate race, where Jackie Rosen's been very articulate. And
Is she
in
going to
the,
survive, Linda?
oh yeah, she looks in good shape thanks to really good advertising and a really good campaign that she's running. And Nevadans are big ticket splitters, so I hope everybody survives. But I think she's in good shape. Montana has an initiative not important for the presidency, but a key Senate race, a key distinction in that Senate race. Ohio had one last year, as you know, registered and got a whole bunch of new voters out to vote that are now key targets in Sherrod Brown's race.
Is she going
Michigan
to
had
be
an
all right?
initiative. That's that's the toughest Senate race out there, I think. Ohio's just really gone red, but if anybody can do it, Sherrod can, and they're running an excellent campaign, and they're running with the abortion issue, not away from it. And then, so those are kind of the states where the initiatives are making a big, big difference. And then you have it playing out in other races. In North Carolina, you have an AG race where it's a very vivid contrast. In Pennsylvania, you have an AG race where it's a very vivid contrast, in a Senate race. So we have a lot of races that bring up this issue too.
It's really something, isn't it? I mean, Democrats, remember the days when Democrats were afraid of the abortion issue? And everybody would
Yeah,
stand up there and say, I am personally opposed to abortion. And there were all men saying it. It was like, what difference does it make if you're
right. When
personally
you can get an
opposed to
abortion, I'll be
abortion?
interested in your personal opinion. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What changed it? Was it really the fact that we said for years we're one vote away from losing Roe v. Wade? And I can't believe how many speeches I wrote warning people about the Supreme Court, and they never used to vote the Supreme Court. Will that change now?
Yeah, the right has voted this issue for a while, and the right votes the Supreme Court. You're right. The Democrats and the progressives do not. But I think this will change that. And the whole series of rulings, Chevron, immunity, etc. I mean, they're just a slew of really bad decisions that are very, very counter public opinion. And when you tell voters that if you reelect Trump, he has the likelihood of controlling 7-2 the judges. People don't know how many judges are on the Supreme Court.
Right.
So when you tell Americans going to have 7 out of 9, 7-2, that really scares them. And so you're seeing more voters on the Democratic side vote the Supreme Court. And then people were getting more pro-abortion. And because of really good campaigns being run and good speeches by people like you and campaigns by Planned Parenthood and Reproductive Freedom for All. And then Roe just shocked us, the people. I mean, even people that believed it could happen theoretically never thought it actually would. And a lot of young people said, what do you mean? Roe's always been there. We don't take away rights. It's not going anywhere. And they were just shocked.
And when you say people have gotten more pro-abortion, what does that mean in terms of the numbers you've seen over the years and how the polls have changed?
So it used to be a slight abortion plurality, about 49, 45, 50%. Then the last 20 years, it's been like 55% in favor of abortion. And then, but only about 8 would outlaw it altogether. And then post the Dobbs decision, the numbers have really shifted in every single state. They've gotten 6, 8, 9, 10 points more pro-abortion. So when you're taking away something, when you're outlawing it even in cases of rape and incest, when you're prosecuting women and doctors, when you're investigating miscarriages and periods, people are like, wait a minute, this is going way, 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 way too far. And it's really reframed the debate. And then personal stories. Personal stories don't always make a lot of difference. But in this case, personal stories really, really impacted people. And I want to salute the courage of these women who had to go through these situations and then were willing to talk about it, including gynecologists and moms of kids and everything else.
Yeah, it's stunning. I think there's a race in New Hampshire that I've been following, a House race where the Democratic candidate has described how she had a miscarriage in a bathtub because she couldn't get to a doctor when she was having, serious, serious medical problems and threats to her life and a fetus that couldn't survive. And now she's running on it. And is she going to win, by the way?
I don't know, but I sure hope so. And there's a really interesting candidate that I'll flag for your listeners, Caitlin in Arkansas against Steve Womack. She has an incredible video. She and her husband have been trying to have children for 10 years. They got IVF, which of course Alabama would have outlawed. She had a complication, lost the child, and then they were very worried that she might have an ectopic pregnancy. But they said, you have to go out of state. We cannot treat you under Arkansas law, or you have to wait till you start bleeding in the parking lot of the hospital. And they were appalled. I mean, they were recommending. So here she is. Her husband gets diagnosed with cancer. She's driving with her husband with cancer for a baby they wanted to avoid an ectopic pregnancy that could affect her life or her fertility to another state to get the services she needs. And that's just ridiculous.
What is this whole thing of women traveling to get medical services strikes me as a stunning issue, and the numbers on the numbers of women who have had to travel out of state to get what I would consider. I mean, I remember when I was in college fighting to get a gynecologist at Harvard Law School when I was in law school because there was no gynecologist on the medical center staff. And we used to have to shuttle people to Harvard Square, shuttle women who were bleeding because there was no one who would treat. It was their First Amendment right not to treat women who were having problems relating to birth control and reproductive freedom. But I thought that was back in the 70s. I mean, that was ancient history. And now you see these women who, with ectopic pregnancies, you have to go out of state. I mean, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, and doctors being told they have to go out of state, like that wonderful OBGYN from Texas. Yeah, this is insane, and people think it's insane. And the fact that these doctors are afraid of legal consequences, and that women and doctors can be jailed, nurses can be jailed, this is just completely out of control at a time when we're short of healthcare providers, for providing medically necessary healthcare and making and following through with their patients' desired personal decisions. So it's really, really out of control. And there was a sense when we were warning about these kinds of things. I'm sure you and I heard the same thing. Oh, you're exaggerating. Oh, you're going too far. That'll
Right.
never happen. Now it's happening again and again and again. And you have some really courageous office holders like the mayor of St. Louis, who used ARPA funds, and the president and administration permitted this to be used to help women travel out of St. Louis to Illinois, to clinics in Southern Illinois that were built precisely to handle this surge in cases, because Missouri's laws are so restrictive. And Missouri has a great woman governor candidate who's very outspoken on this issue, and an initiative on the ballot. So it's really emerging everywhere. And of course, we've won in places we're not supposed to win, like Kentucky and Kansas.
And you've got Trump sitting there saying it should all just be left to the states. And that's what everybody, I mean, I'm a law professor, and I can promise you that back when Roe versus was decided, all the law professors in the world didn't say it was wrong. I mean, I wasn't a law professor then, I was in college, but we celebrated. We used to take up collections to send women out of state before Roe v. Wade. We'd have to send
Yeah.
them to New York because Massachusetts was so restrictive. We couldn't even get birth control in Massachusetts. If you were single and, not didn't lie about being married and having, horrible periods and things like that. So he's wrong about the law professors, but this business of leaving it all to the states and then seeing what the states are doing, is that going to work as an argument to deflect it for him?
No. And as I said, over 2/3 of voters want a national guarantee, and more people oppose leaving it up to the states than actually support abortion. But people think, no, this is not a case. You don't, and people, moms don't want their daughters going to college or for a job to a state where they have to send medication abortion pills, and where something could go wrong for them. Young women say this is a major factor in a poll for the Fund for Feminist Majority. Young women said this is a major factor in where I'm choosing to seek a job and where I'm choosing to go to college. This has massive, massive impact.
I have to be honest, I was a little disappointed in the way Biden handled the abortion question in the June 27th debate. I thought he had the opportunity to absolutely slam Trump when Trump came up with that, trope about women, about us being in favor of abortion after birth. And he didn't hit it out of the park. Why not?
Well, I think honestly, he was tired. I mean, as he said himself, he was tired. He was off his game. He was not feeling well. And, I think we could say on any issue, he didn't hit it out of the park. He
No.
gave a very strong response on abortion itself. And then he interrupted himself with the immigration story, but then came back to it. So he's been quite strong. And of course, the VP, no one could be stronger than she's been on this
He's
issue.
been
So,
phenomenal.
yeah. So the team's really strong on it. I just think he didn't hit any answer out of the park that night. He'd be the first to admit it.
Celinda, you've been following women candidates for as long as women have been running for high office. And one of the things that's really disappointed me is the reaction to Kamala Harris. I don't know what she's done so wrong that so many people have a negative opinion of her, and her poll numbers have been lagging. Is that just a vice presidential thing, or is it sexism, or is it racism? And now, with all the talk about what's going to happen with the ticket, some women are saying to me, maybe we'll finally have a woman president. I don't know if we will or not, but I'm worried that Kamala's numbers don't reflect what I think of as an amazing candidate.
Well, I completely agree with you. An amazing VP. But you said the right thing in your initial question, which is, and University of Michigan has studied this extensively. the image of the president and the image of the VP are highly, highly correlated. The only time they have a big difference is when you have a scandal like Agnew, or when the day they're nominated. That's the biggest difference. The most any vice president has ever made is just under 2% difference. Most vice presidents make less than 1% difference. Their images merge. So people think President Biden hasn't accomplished anything, so they think she hasn't accomplished anything. People think I never see him out there, so they think they never see her out there. So they're very, very merged. She does have a little bit of independent image around abortion, actually, with women in particular. She does have some independent strength with younger voters and African American and Latina voters. But in general, all VPs merge. I think it's quite unfair. I agree with you completely. But here's our secret sauce, Susan. This is my goal that I hope all of your listeners will pledge to. In 2028, I think we should nominate a woman for both parties, and then we'll get our woman president because the voters won't have any choice. So let's pledge.
That's a great way to do it. Do you think it's going to happen?
I think it could happen if we work for it, and I think we're not going to get it any other way.
I thought Nikki Haley was a strong candidate. I don't know. What do you think happened with her? I thought she was a very strong candidate. And to be perfectly honest, I was much more afraid of her getting the nomination and appealing to moderate voters and to women voters than I was of Trump. Maybe that's wrong. But
no, you're totally right.
Why didn't Republicans see it that way?
Well, Republican primary voters didn't see it that way. And she still consistently got a fifth to a third of the primary vote. But they're really controlled by MAGA right now. And it's a small turnout. Republican primaries are majority men. Republican primaries are majority evangelical. So it's a very, very conservative audience. It's hard for women to make, it's very easy for women to make it out of the Democratic primary. It's much harder out of the Republican primary. And then Trump really had that party sewn up from day one. But she's very formidable. And in research that we did for the Barbara Lee Family Foundation, of all of the women office holders we've ever tested, and we've tested them generically because, you know, they weren't that well known at the time, she has consistently tested the best. People think she comes across as a leader. They like her profile. They like her issues. They like her perspective on diversity. They think that she's strong, but not divisive. So she's a very formidable candidate. And so will the woman we run on the Democratic side be formidable, because we've got quite a few, including a very
quite a few. We've got Gretchen Whitmer, who's a great candidate. We've got Kamala, who's potentially a great candidate. What's going on with the women's vote right now? I've seen polls that suggest that Biden has less of a gender gap than I would expect him to have. Are women voters saying, what is going on with that?
Yeah, really good question. So there was less of a gender gap. Interestingly, around the trial and the 32 convictions and everything, the gender gap increased. And then it has reduced again. Women tend to be later deciders, lower information. They're also very nervous voters. They really feel cross-pressured because they're risk averse, but they really don't like Trump. And he always does better with women than when he's not visible to them. But I think in the end, the formula for success is very clear. We have to win women by more than we lose men. Now that means we have to keep men up, but we have to win with women. And women are making up the bulk of the undecided. We have a lot of women turnout audiences, younger women, women of color, unmarried women, which we tend to forget, but still a very good turnout audience. So it's up to the women, as Eleanor Roosevelt said so long ago.
What about Adrienne Carroll? I expected, I'm a rape victim and I've done rape stuff for 35, 40 years. I think it's 50 years, but I don't want to admit it. Why didn't I find it shocking in my experience that somebody could be convicted of sexual assault, found liable for sexual assault, and get away with it and be leading in presidential polls. How did he do that?
You know what was really interesting? I think on the one hand, we didn't make enough of it, because when we were doing some of the early research on all the trials of the president, women would constantly raise her, particularly women east of the Mississippi. They would say, well, what about the trial of the rape? What about Eugene Carroll? What about that trial? It was very, very salient to women. And it was, where a lot of his other stuff had, was either dated or was willing participants or people that were kind of backed into willing participants. That was clearly rape, and women thought it was that way. So I don't think we made enough of it. It was very salient. And then all of this controversy about who's running and who did well in debates and stuff, it has really drowned all of that out. But it was a very salient issue to women, and we probably didn't make enough of it.
Is there still time to make more of it? Is it going to come back in
Yeah.
the general election?
And we should make it part of the litany.
And what does Trump say about it? I mean, how does he get away with it?
Well, he says he didn't do it, he didn't know her, blah, blah, blah. With his base, he gets away with a lot. He really could probably murder someone in Times Square and get away with it. Now he has immunity for it because they call it an official act. But I think with other voters, I mean, part of it is they had, with the statements about grab them by the pee and all that, they had somewhat processes. But rape is a very different ballgame to people, and they saw it quite differently. And she had a lot of credibility.
I thought she was terrific. I mean,
She was.
I don't know what, and we're running out of time, but I don't know what to make of our politics these days, that somebody like Donald Trump, who has such a history, who is now arguing that paying off a porn star with hush money in order to rig an election is an official act of presidential power because he wrote the check while he was in the White House. I mean, that to me, if you had told me 5 years ago or 10 years ago that that would be a salient issue in a presidential election and the leading candidate for president would get away with that kind of an argument, I would have thought you were smoking something. And yet, what has happened to our politics? How have we devolved into that being sort of an acceptable argument that he makes and says,
Well, it isn't. The
a
immunity
liar?
isn't. Yeah, the immunity is not acceptable to the public, by the way. They
Is
do
it?
not
You
agree with
hold
it
it.
at all. We're not making enough of it. They think it's very dangerous for someone of his temperament to have immunity. But I think one of the problems, we're uniquely cynical, we're uniquely divided. People are feeling down and out, which always brings out the ugly side of Americans. We've had a tough time with COVID and a tough time in the economy, which Democrats have not always appeared to be in touch with. But the bottom line is, and it's so true what you're saying, Trump has really tested us. We don't have the guardrails to protect against a Trump. He's so different than any other Republican we've ever had. He does things that Bush would never, neither Bush would have considered, Reagan wouldn't have considered. We don't have protections against him. And now we have a Supreme Court that sanctions him. And so it is really out of control, and it is very dangerous to put him in the presidency.
I agree with you completely. I just don't know that. I mean, let me just ask you, what do you think of the horse race right now? And how does it go forward? There's questions about Biden. I don't think they're going to be easy to answer. There's a lot of talk. Biden says he doesn't care what, what the elites have to say. But I worry about the polls opening up with a Trump lead. And, what does it say about our country, this horse race?
Well, I mean, it's very close. Trump was slightly ahead before the debate. He's picked up a point or two. That's scary, of course, but I think Biden has made a statement, and we need. My own view of it is we need to unite behind him, and we need to get going. We haven't heard anything about immunity. We haven't heard anything about the 2025 agenda. We haven't set up anything for the Republican. The Republican convention is Monday. And
I
we've
know.
set up no contrast. We've got to get going, and we've got to unite. And our answer, our team is clear. Let's get going, and let's contrast with Trump. So it was always going to be a very close race. We were having some problems with some key groups of voters, but attacking our own team is not going to help it solve any of those problems, and it gives Trump a free ride.
Linda, it is such a pleasure to talk to you. I am
Great to talk with you.
stunned by the closeness of this race and a little disconcerted by it because I
Mm,
don't, you know, that debate performance was disconcerting and it's not going to be that easy to recover. And there's a part of me that would love to see Kamala Harris leading our ticket. I have to admit, I think she's terrific. And, Biden made me nervous. I don't know what else to say.
Well, I mean, I think they're a very people are going to weigh the VPs more than they ever have before because they worry about the health of both of these candidates. And I think we have a really strong team and a really strong ticket. I hope that Harris will be even more visible in the broader agenda. And I think we got to unite, draw the contrast, get our votes out. And, we need to act more like Republicans. My most interesting conversation are with Republican consultants. And when I asked them, what would you do if you were in this situation? They say, we can't believe you guys. We would raise twice as much money. We would grab up our swords. We would head into battle. We would launch $100 million ad campaign against you. And we would tell everybody, get behind the ticket or you'll never see the light of day. And we got to get united enough. We've made, the discussion's been had. We have our ticket. We have a good ticket. We have a great president and a great candidate and vice president. So let's just get going.
Celinda Lake, you are the best. That's all I
You
can
are
say.
the best. Thank you. And thank
Okay,
you for all of that legal work.
Well, we just keep doing it. You've been listening to No Holding Back with me, Susan Estrich. Thank you to Celinda Lake for a great conversation. Tweet us at No Holding Back FM. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share the link on social media. You can sign up to receive an email when a new episode drops at our website, noholdingback.fm. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll see you next time on No Holding Back.